Thank you all for joining us on this Monday. Today we're focused on chapters hiring additional staff outside of the CED. So this role does fall on you as the executive director of the chapter. And today we are joined by Scott from the West Florida chapter and Tina from our Georgia chapter, who are either working through the process or just finished that process. And so they're going to go through some of their experience, give some tips and tricks of things to maybe think about. Feel free at any time if you have a question, if you want to drop it in the chat or come off mute. Also, if you have an experience that you would like to also share, I know we've got a couple other people who have additional staff, so feel free to also share your experiences. This is much more of a casual session, just again, we know a lot of chapters are in that process of hiring that additional staff, so we felt that this was a great time to go ahead and share these experiences with everyone. So I know Scott, he has already kind of completed this process of going through it, and Tina's in the process of it. So I'll start with turning it over to Scott, but Tina will be jumping in throughout the conversation as well. So Scott, it's all of you.
Thank you, Kelly. So as you mentioned, we did hire somebody within the last couple of months, and happy to say that it is working out well for us so far. Last year, it was advised to me by our board of directors that we do need to consider hiring somebody. I currently have a part-time slash full-time, depending on time of year, marketing director who has been with the chapter for 10 years. So we do have somebody obviously well-versed within the chapter and knows us. But we did want to bring on somebody, again, that was advised by my board to help remove some of the clerical duties, the day-to-day stuff that was bogging both myself and Chris, my marketing director, down. So that was the plan. We knew after our big trade show this year, we would start for the search there. And I know talking to some of you that the question has been asked, is it when you reach a certain level of membership numbers or certain sponsorship dollars that you should start looking for hiring somebody? I would say there's probably not, and I think Tina and I probably agree, there's no magic number to that, whether it's how much money you're bringing in or if you have a certain amount of members now to your chapter. But it's certainly a good bargaining chip for you if you are getting any sort of kickback from your board that may disagree that you need to hire additional help. You can point to these metrics and say, we're now at X level for our membership and we need to bring on, so I'm not doing quite as much. I would also talk about maybe, and Tina and I can share a little bit about this, the process of when you are hiring somebody to consider both when and why. When would be a good time? You know your calendar better than anybody else. So you probably want to look to start this process during a slower period. You can bring somebody in and incrementally start to add assignments to them or duties. We did that by going through our summer process, which in the state of Florida, that's when our snowbirds go back up north. It slows down a little bit for us, and we've had some time to bring our new hire up to speed in what we do. But I guess, Tina, did you want to share a little bit about how you are starting the process? And I can continue to maybe jump in and try not to interrupt you.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Scott. I actually took this to my board this year and explained to them that we needed some support in the office. I'm all about numbers and facts, so I actually put together like a spreadsheet of where we were 10 years ago when I came here, how many members we had, how much money we had, and then where we are today. So literally 10 years ago, I was at around 600 and maybe 25, 50 members, I think it was. And we're almost at 1,200 now with the same staff. So that got their attention pretty quickly that, we're doing the same work for twice the number of members. And I wanted to convey to them how more efficient we could be if we had some of these tedious tasks that we have to also do in our jobs taken off of us and getting some support that way. So I approached the board with, we're looking for, I don't know what it's going to be called yet, was exactly what I said to them, but kind of an office support / event assistant. And in mind, I had somebody that can be remote because I do work out of a home office and I'm not ready to quite go to an office yet. So we want somebody that can be independent and work remotely. And also the way I'm working their job description, something that we can monitor to make sure that the job is being done correctly and things are getting done that way. So I actually took, some of you on this call might have provided me some information, but I took job descriptions from several different executive directors, and they're all sitting here on my desk. And I literally have gone through and highlighted the tasks off of several of these to put it all together of what my vision is of this person. I sat with Caitlin because she's the executive assistant right now. I'm changing her job description. We went through all her details of what she does and what would be the easiest thing to take off her plate to give to this new person to make her more efficient. So that's kind of how I'm working at trying to put together the job description for now. But the board was very much in support. They asked me what my thought process was on the salary. I gave them a number and they agreed to it. So it's in the budget. We don't know if this person's going to be part-time or full-time quite yet. So I've got enough in the budget to go full-time if we want to do that. But I think it's going to be more dependent on the person. So, and if we want to give flexibility and, that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
And that's a really good point, Tina. I guess I can speak for our chapter. We don't offer, and I know insurance has been a topic of conversation for many chapters over the years. We obviously don't offer a health insurance. Our benefit really is flexibility for people. We too work remotely. Right now, our current schedule with our new employee is we schedule a Monday right around lunchtime meeting to game plan, discuss what's coming up for this week, and then we have put Wednesday on our calendar since that is when we have our monthly chapter breakfast, the first Wednesday. But it's also a day that works for all of us to at least put in some time in the afternoon to meet up at the office and do some hands-on training, answer questions. We're getting into sponsorship season for 2026 right now, so it's going to be very important for our new hire to understand the ins and outs of our chapter investor packets. This could be done remotely, but I think for us at least, we've determined that being able to sit at a table, stare each other face to face, ask questions as a group, it just works a little bit better for us. So having that commitment of time that we know that we will all try and strictly accommodate each other's time for that to the best of our abilities. But yeah, I would say that that's also a really important factor when you're hiring somebody. To Tina's point, what is the expectation of their time? Do they need to understand that they are going to be commuting to an office? Do they need to understand that there is also a level of discipline as far as the expectation of that person if they are working remotely? The worst thing you can do is hand somebody a laptop who has no intention of working and then a month later find out that they have just wasted your time. Um, Speaking of laptops, and Kelly did ask us to sort of mention this, I would also make sure when you are putting this together, if you are considering hiring somebody, what is your plan when it comes to the budget, not only of salary, but also of office equipment? If you have an office phone that is like a cell phone offered through the chapter, make sure that that is factored into your budget and your decision-making process, as well as your laptop. So we knew if we were going to bring somebody on in 2025, to not only put something in the budget for their salary and what the expectation was there for a part-time employee who could potentially grow into full-time, but also to make sure that we would put money aside for office equipment for them so that they would have their own laptop, that they can work remotely, as well as bring their equipment into the office if we were meeting for a set time there as well.
That's exactly the way we work it here too. Currently we meet once a week on Wednesdays like you. Unless there's an event, then we might have to meet a little bit more. But yeah, that's kind of how we're doing it as well. I budgeted for the computer, the phone, all the stuff you just mentioned. I also kind of have a wish list of all the things I've wanted to do since I've been here and just have not had the time to get to do it. I'm hoping that person's going to be creative and want to take on some of these things because it's not hard. It's just time consuming, which, as you guys all know, is very difficult to carve out time. One of the things we're going to work on is building a binder of event spaces. It's going to be one of the first tasks I give that person because that's pretty easy to do research. And we have some of it because we've done a lot of events that we just need it all put together in one space. So we're going to work on that. And then, of course, my person, as of right now, would be pulling membership reports, updating everything in membership, and then providing event assistance. So for the event, they wouldn't necessarily need to be there all the time or full time, the whole time, but they could come and do the check-in portion, and then after that they can leave, and then Caitlin and I are there to manage the event from that point on. That's my vision. I know
And
they're out there somewhere.
and just to jump into that too, depending on what you're hiring this person to do. So again, in Tina's case of, pulling those monthly reports and everything like that, we from headquarters can offer training assistance in those types of cases that aren't very chapter specific. If it's more CAI or getting that introduction, or again, a certain task like pulling reports, again, we can help with that training. So please make sure that once you have that person hired, if there's things that we can assist with, that again, tag us in and we are more than happy to do some virtual training with them as well.
Yeah, and Kelly, you mentioned when I was talking about that binder before everybody got on, you were mentioning to utilize AI when putting that together. So that just gave me an idea of what I need to make sure when I'm interviewing or skill sets or things like that, that this person isn't like completely unaware of what AI is about. They need to have a little bit of knowledge about that. So that was a good point right there. I mean, things I just haven't thought of all the way through for as far as skill sets, but that would be really helpful.
And something else we talked about before everybody was let into the call here was organizing sort of what your list of qualifications are from the job, not just from their day to day, but also what you're looking for in a candidate. I would assume that you probably have an opinion one way or the other, or maybe you haven't thought about it yet, but eventually you will. Do you want to hire somebody who has a pre-existing relationship with your chapter? Do you want to find somebody who has no idea what the HOA association world is? So maybe there's not any potential baggage there, but there's also no preconceived understanding of how the association world works. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Um, we fortunately did hire somebody who was a licensed CAM in the state of Florida who happened to just not be involved with CAI. So they did understand the association world. However, they weren't friends or they didn't have any real clicks within the chapter just yet. So for us, that has worked up to this point of we haven't had to sit down and hold their hand of talking about board of directors and how these service providers work and build relationships with the community managers and what it takes in the state of Florida to be a licensed CAM and CEU credit. So I would say determine that strategy of the type of candidate you're looking for ahead of time. And for us too, we wanted to find somebody who was smart, reliable as far as their time. They were punctual. Obviously, you're probably not going to get everything on that wish list of a potential employee, but determine which ones are the absolutes that you cannot live without, which are the ones that are teachable qualities that you can put into somebody who joins your team, and then which ones are, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You can fill in the other space for them. So Tina, what strategies have you gone? I know you're early into this process, but like for us, we used a lot of word of mouth to fill this space. And this is my probably third go around of hiring people outside of my marketing director, who has been our constant over the last several years. Some of the people have not worked out for us because they were not a good fit. Some of them did not work out because it was a failure on my part because I didn't give enough time early on to really get them comfortable in the position. So we've had success with word of mouth, but have you done like the online search or what direction are you going?
Well, I've been thinking about that because I do want to hire somebody that's not connected to the chapter for various reasons. I just think it's going to work for this position. It's going to work out well to not have any of those connections. Um, but I'm thinking I'm in parts of these moms groups. I'm going to start there because we would like, or I would like, we've talked about this, somebody that's maybe been in the business world and wants to stay home with their kids now and just wants something to do, very flexible. We're very flexible here. We can manage around school bus schedules and things like that. That's kind of where we're going to start because I would like to have a higher level person in this role that's had experience with people. They have to have good people skills. If I'm going to take them to events and they're going to sit there at the registration table, they need to be good with people. It's not a behind the scenes job, so that's going to be important. And then I'll take it out from there because I know as soon as I put it on social media, I'm going to have chapter related people contacting me immediately. And that's not where I want to start. So it's kind of where we're going with it.
That makes sense. I remember early on, I had a very nice elder lady who wanted to be our membership director. Unfortunately, she had zero education as far as computers, and it was a challenging conversation to have. As nice as she was to say, this is very heavy. So to your point, understanding what are the absolutes, like you said, they've got to have people skills. It's not a behind the scenes. If that's the type of person you're looking for, you want to make sure that the personality and the positive qualities that they bring to the table are
Yeah.
matching what your expectations are for
Yeah,
sure.
and as we, the succession plan that we're moving into, I'm not going to be here in 10 years, I'll tell you that. So, so somebody's going to take my role, and then somebody's going to need to move into whatever Caitlin's role is, or if she moves up to executive director, it's all up to the board. But then maybe that person's at a point in their life, at that point, to Emily's point, that they want to move into maybe a more sophisticated full-time role or something more, maybe doing some marketing or something a little bit more that requires a little bit more skill set. That's the thought behind it.
Sure. And similarly to, I guess, hopefully that's Caitlin's plan because I think she's excellent at what she does. And whenever you decide to, spend the majority of your time not worrying about CAI stuff and whatever that may be, that Caitlin's here. I was hired as a membership director back in 2017. I never had the exact intention or 5-year plan of taking over as the executive director. It's just the way the chips fell, and I'm happy the way it went. But that brings up a good point of what is your long-term plan potentially in hiring? And I think that's what my predecessor was looking for at the time. She was aware that she was probably 5 years removed from her retirement expectation and wanted to at least start building on that. So
Right.
me in particular, I'm probably not looking to hire my predecessor at this time. Although with some of the members, who knows, that can obviously change. But if that is your plan, you probably want to be looking for somebody and then manage their expectations as what is the timeline? We don't have different departments necessarily. We have marketing and membership and events and accounting and small things that we sort of batch together for maybe 1 or 2 people to do for the chapter.
Mhm.
But if you're planning on being with the chapter for 10, 15 years, you're probably not hiring a successor at this point.
Right.
And maybe to be clear with that, which I've tried to be, and what we've also noticed the trend for us is usually we'll bring in an office admin person. If we get them for a year, that's success right there. And then one of our business partners will pick them up as their new business development person. So I think thinking of that long term for us too, understanding we're probably going to lose them to one of our members somewhere down the road. It's okay. That's sort of part of the plan.
Yeah. Do we have any
Well,
questions?
yeah, Scott, Tina, thank you for all of that. So if anyone has any questions or a pain point that you might be struggling with as you're working through this process, please feel free to come off mute. Also, if anyone wants to share any experience they've had, maybe something that we haven't mentioned or touched on that you have experience with when hiring additional staff, also feel free to jump off mute. All right, I'm not seeing much up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just a little late. Obviously, this is a process I'm going to be starting soon, and if any of you would like to share whatever information, please feel free to email my way.
And
Um,
we do have some of the resources in the toolkit as well.
yes,
So make sure you're absolutely checking there. And if you have any, again, job descriptions for these other positions that you have, please send them and we'll make sure that we also put that in there. So Tina, as you finalize this new position, please send it our way because we'll add it in there as
Sure.
well.
No problem.
yeah, I'm very interested in the job description
Yeah,
That was
but
really
because we're
helpful.
going to,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
our search is going to be everywhere. I've had several um members already express interest, but we don't know obviously if that's a route we want to go. Obviously mine's a little bit accelerated because I'm hoping to have this person hired by the first of the year. But obviously I also want to make sure I'm doing it right and not rushed to where it's a bad fit.
Yeah, and I lean towards not hiring somebody that's involved in the chapter because I wasn't when I came here, and I think that's probably the best thing that could have happened as a new director coming in. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any preconceived ideas. I didn't have any favoritism. I didn't have any stories or history to, I didn't care. I came in to do a job. And it just worked out really, really well for me in our chapter. I know that some chapters have that and it works great too. But that's just my experience. And that's kind of why I'm leaning that way. But, it may not work out that way. We may end up with somebody that's been part of CAI or involved in CAI in some sense, but that's not the first route I'm going.
And Lisa, you mentioned about the job description, something we were talking about before the call really got started. And I guess I'll try and put this a little bit more politically correct, is we all do things as directors, or if we have current staff and we're looking to maybe help facilitate some of their responsibilities to an additional hire, maybe jot down some of the stuff you do on the day to day and some of the things you prefer not to have to do because you would rather prioritize your time elsewhere. That can help you build on what your role for this person is. Like Tina said, I don't think you've created a name for it really. We refer to Valerie, our new hire, as our Swiss Army knife because she's just taking things on right now. So, and we told her that early on that we're technically going to call you the office admin, but you're not going to be just answering phones at the front desk or anything like that. You're going to be sometimes submitting CEU credits, taking minutes when our volunteers don't want to for a committee meeting, um, selling chapter sponsorships, things that can help facilitate. With the intention of cross training too. We become so specific as executive directors where we become irreplaceable, which is great for our job security, but we get sick, we have family emergencies, we get called for jury duty, whatever it is. And if you're missing a key event of yours and you are a prominent figure in that event and its success, well, you've set yourself up in your chapter for failure there. So it's good to cross train people so that if you are sick or unavailable, they can step in and make sure that the event still occurs without any real hitches.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott, with that. Cindy, I see you came off mute. Next.
Yeah, I did. Tina, we're in Minnesota at a similar chapter size to you.
Mhm.
I want to get a handle for your staffing. So it's you and Caitlin currently,
Yep.
and you're looking to add this person part or full time. Do you have
Correct.
any other resources? Like, do you have a financial component, or do you handle that, or
So the
what
only
else?
thing, I don't outsource finances. I do have our books looked at once a month by a CPA, and they put together reports for the board for the financial reports. But we do all the billing, we collect all the money, everything's done here. The only other thing that I outsource is the magazine. Our magazine committee writes the articles, and then I let the company take care of the sponsorships. I don't collect any money on it. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're losing all this money. I did an analysis when I first got here, and it was not worth it, my time to try to work on that. It took up so much time that I just decided, we'll our losses on that, and we'll have the magazine outsourced. They mail it, they put it together, everything doesn't cost me a dime, and it looks great. So I had to kind of pick and choose my battles there. So those are the only two things, and everything else we do.
Okay, is anyone else outsourcing social media, digital marketing?
Yes.
We have a couple of chapters that do contract out for that outside of the chapter staff.
And I have a committee that actually handles that for me.
And
Great.
that's the other thing too. When I started to look at this new position, I looked at the strengths of Caitlin and what she brings to the chapter, and I want to focus more of her strength in her job description. So that's another thing to look at if you're looking to hire. Look at the people. If you do have another person, what are they doing and what are they best at, and put that on them, because that's where they're going to shine if they're in their realm of what they like to do and enjoy doing and all that. So I definitely took a hard look at that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Michelle,
you.
I had saw that you came off mute. You wanna?
Yeah, one to ask Tina if she could send me her spreadsheet. We're at the very beginning of the process, and because we don't have the budget right now for a third person, but we need one. And so, what I'm looking to do is with next year, try to get our budget to the place it needs to be for us to be able to hire a third person in 2027. One of the roadblocks I'm running into right now is convincing my board that we need a third person. Part of the roadblock is I've done a very good job of reducing the outrageous number of events that we've had. And so they think that that means less work for us. Um, Even though we've grown revenue, we've grown membership, our events are much bigger than they were when I started. So that's the challenge that I'm facing over the next year is showing that we need the person.
Yeah, I mean, it's just literally, it's just a matter of, do what it was 5 years ago, do what it was 10 years ago, put it in a spreadsheet. Here's where we were and here's where we are. My board, I'm very lucky. I have a great board that anything that I bring to them, they pretty much go along with whatever it is. They never push back on me on things. So that's helpful. Makes my job a lot easier. But I always like to have facts to back things up, and that's what I did with them. So
Well, and I would
Yeah,
say,
your facts in the past have helped me convince them on some stuff. So I wish I had Scott's board where they told me I needed to hire a person.
and you have a bigger chapter than me.
I will use that information.
Yeah, for sure.
and Michelle, I think we all can agree one thing about all of our boards is as well as they may know us, they really don't have any concept of what we do as executive directors. And, we can use that to our advantage. As I mentioned, I think early on, use some of the metrics in the chapter, whether it's membership growth or your sponsorship dollars were X amount 5 years ago, like Tina was saying, to what they are now. That's great. So more money means you're putting more time into sponsorships and benefits and increasing costs for goods across the board. You can use all those as these are your arguments as to all this equals more time allocated to these decisions and these clerical duties and all that stuff. Therefore, you need to hire a second person.
Right. And
Right.
one of my pitches to the board was, as an executive director, I feel like I should have a lot more face time with members. And I'm
Mhm.
busy running events and, doing stuff in this office. And people want to go meet for coffee or whatever and talk about sponsorships. I'd love to be able to do that more. And I just don't have the time to do that. So, and they want me to do that more. So that was a big selling point too to them.
That's my
Thank you.
focus is that we can spend more time thinking strategically, but also spend more time on membership and outreach, retention, relationship building. Whereas right now, we're like 90% event planners.
Right.
Kathy with Heartland, I saw you had come off mute a couple of times. Did you want to share anything?
I think they were answering. I was just more I've been through some of this and I hired somebody. It was they were completely working virtual and it didn't work out and had to let them go. Thank you, Kelly, for your help with that. So since then I've hired someone else, actually my daughter. The board actually said, I have a college student daughter. So she's been really helping with like membership things and flyers and all kinds of the extra things I was doing, and she's been great. But I guess my question is and this is probably me being type A, but I still have a hard time like deciding what to let go of and like what to put on someone else's plate. So I would be more curious to know like where you guys started when you had that first, full-time position besides yourself, how you started and what you, I guess, like what you let go of and what you put on their plate and took off your plate.
And I think that ties into one of the questions that was asked in the chat from, I guess, Alicia about the timeline for onboarding, sort of what is the expectation there. Quite frankly, in full transparency, anything that's not financially related, Tina and I were talking about, handing over the keys to that part of the chapter, you want to be a little hesitant, but look at the stuff you do on a daily basis and just say, you know what, I wish I didn't have to do this as much as I do. and just start building. I mean, that's essentially how we created uh, the day-to-day for Valerie, our part-time office admin. And she is consuming all this. It works at a high level, high efficiency. So we've just gradually added stuff to her plate. And that was the expectation for her. Said there are going to be weeks. She's fortunate enough that she's not the breadwinner in her family. They recently had their son was born 6 months ago. She's looking to contribute to the household. So she did want flexibility. She wanted to focus on being a mom, but she also wanted to be able to bring something to the table. And that's why this works out for us. So she started very slowly, but now we're adding stuff on that both Chris, my marketing person, and I don't want to say we don't want to do, but we would just rather delegate our time elsewhere. And the more trust we can put into Valerie as her understanding of the job, the more confident we feel in just stepping back and letting her do it, and knowing that in the next day, week, depending on the size of the project, it's going to get done.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the other thing that I started, because this got approved in the summer when we did our budget with the board, but I have a list here that, as every day that I do my job or Caitlin does her job, there's certain things I said, if you're doing something that you think this could be easy for an assistant to do, I need you to write it down so we can start to build from that. Plus also gathering all of these job descriptions, I was looking at them, I'm like, oh yeah, we do that too. You don't think about some of the things that you have to do until you're doing it. So that's what I'm trying to put together now, is all that stuff of we could allow an assistant to do this, or because I just automatically do it. We've been doing this for 10 years, so we're in the groove of doing it constantly, and we don't think twice about it. But that's how I've been trying to build the job description also.
Would you be willing to share you and Caitlin's list of like things that you would like to hand off?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I know we are a little bit over the scheduled time, but I do want to respect everyone on this call. Is there any other questions or topics that you would like to bring to this group around the additional staff hiring? All right. Well, thank
Good luck.
you all for joining us. Good luck with everything that you're doing out there. Just as a reminder, we do have the CED exchange group. So for anyone who's working through that process, again, I know we've got some interview questions available. We have some ways on how to measure performance and those examples. So again, make sure you check out the toolkit. Again, if you have any great resources, please share them. We'll add those to the toolkits, but really use that exchange to talk to your peers. And I'd like to thank Tina and Scott. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with the group today. And I hope you all have a great week.